Good evening, YouTubers. T Square here with T Square Talks. Hope everybody's having a great day. Today, I want to talk a little bit about this de-dollarizing that a lot of people are now actually talking about, which kind of blows my mind. Not in the same sense that a lot of us have talked about de-dollarizing. However, this kind of came up when someone actually told me yesterday that essentially these tariffs that Trump's causing is making a lot of countries want to de-dollarize and move away from the US and the US dollar. And almost like this is a whole new concept. Now, we've talked about this time and time again, but now we're starting to see even more articles. Could Trump's new tariffs push countries to ditch the US dollar? Not only Russia and Ukraine, these 11 countries have also just said goodbye to the US dollar forever. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about this because we've been down this road before. We've talked about this numerous times as there is constantly threat against the US dollar, and I think it's something that we should talk about right now, especially with gold and silver. I'm going to say consolidating right now, and we're going to take a look at the charts on that. We're seeing a little bit of upward momentum again for the stock market, a little bit more up momentum on Bitcoin, and gold and silver is kind of just going sideways, which is good. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm rooting for a little bit of a dip, even though I know some people are kind of shocked that I want to see a dip. But here's the thing. I mean, I've said this time and time again. I want to stack more. I hope my subscribers stack more. I hope my friends stack more. I want people to be prepared when this comes to an end. However, there are rich, powerful people out there that don't want you to have anything. They want you to be totally broke when everything collapses. And I'll be honest, there's even a group of wealthy people that don't want to see the dollar collapse. Why do they not want to see the dollar collapse? In the famous words of, I'm going to say Rothschild, even though some people will say there's no evidence of it, and there is no evidence of it. In fact, it didn't come into print until after he had already passed away. But I care not who controls the country as long as I have control of the money. And, once you understand that philosophy, you really understand what's going on in the world. Having control over a currency that people use gives the ultimate control to kind of run what happens behind the scenes, because money is a powerful thing. I mean, it controls people essentially. It's not the way it should be. People should not be controlled by money. People should control the money. They should control their finances, their wealth, their savings. But unfortunately, a lot of times it's the other way around, where people get consumed by the money. And the money basically runs a lot of stuff. So we're going to kind of talk about that today. We're going to take a look at some charts. I thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button. The ultimate thing is to subscribe. I can't thank you enough if you hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this or any other questions you may have, because your questions actually fuel ideas for future videos. So also, I'd like to take a special minute to thank all the members of the channel. For those of you guys that are members, I can't thank you enough. We did a little event the other day, had a lot more people become members. We're going to do another silver event within probably the next week, and then we're probably going to do another silver event with a lot of cool silver prizes coming up. As you know, multiple people have sent in donations to the channel to give away. So there's never been a better time to become a member than right now, where it is only $1.99 to become a member. You get a lot of fun events that we do with shots at winning free silver. I actually had a friend of mine ask me the other day, he's like, I don't really know if I like the odds. I said, when you really think about what you're paying, $1.99 for a chance at getting an ounce of silver, I mean, you can't buy an ounce of silver for that. So it's kind of cool. With that being said, I don't want to beat this too much. I want to jump into today's topic because it is a really hot topic, I think. And before I jump in, I want to take a minute and take a look at the silver price. Right off the bat, Silver price trading at $32.27. When you look at it and you start to see, we came back up. We're kind of leveling right around this $32.50. And I think as you start watching that, you understand that this up and down, it's not really being pulled down. It's not really being pushed up. We're kind of focusing right now in that price range. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's building consolidation, getting ready for the next push, that I believe the next push will push us through that $35 range and possibly up to $40. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that think that's never going to happen, but those same people never thought we'd be over 30. So, I mean, right off the bat, a lot of them people, I just kind of cross out their opinions because they have been proven to be wrong time and time again. Now, if you believe in silver and you think maybe, there's going to be one more drop before the next big jump, I hope you're right. And that's a possibility. You're not constantly saying the price is going to plunge. There's a lot of naysayers out there. There's a lot of people that are maybe not even naysayers. They're just so pro on Bitcoin that they want to tear down everything else that stands in the way of Bitcoin. And personally, I was a Bitcoin fan at one point. However, I don't want people to think that I think it's a good investment now. I think the idea of the cryptocurrency is a good idea. I think it's great. It's a fast way to transfer money. But when you've got a coin that is priced as high as it is and has no real strategic value in terms of there's nothing there, nothing physical, I think that is essentially a big mistake waiting to happen for a lot of people that are putting their life savings in Bitcoin. Now, I'm not going to sit here and belittle Bitcoin. I know there's a lot of you guys that are speculating on Bitcoin, and if you are, that's great. But I want to point out that, gold and silver has been here since the beginning of time. We've continued to see it just go higher and higher. And I will actually say gold more than silver, because there's a lot of people out there right now that are saying, I'd rather have gold than silver. Silver, if I could trade in all my silver, I probably would. And I find that funny when I hear people say that, because I really wish some of these people were near me, because I would love to trade my gold out right now and end up getting more silver. Gold's sitting right now at $3,222 at the time of filming this video. I've actually had people watch this like maybe in 6-10 hours, maybe tonight, and say in the comment, no, dude, it's 3150, or oh no, it's 3300. And here's the thing, 3300 is right around the corner. We just hit 3,200 not too long ago, and the trend on gold is continuing to go higher as you look at it. I mean, it doesn't matter. You might see a dip like this, and then it just shoots. And a lot of this, when you see this dip, this is opportunity for a lot of people to buy in. And so what does that buying in does is it pushes it even higher than it probably would have gone had we not seen this huge amount of downdraft that essentially propelled it even higher. So taking a look at the 3-month chart, even higher, 6-month chart, even higher, year to date, higher, year, higher, 5 years, higher. And what a lot of people aren't seeing is that we're picking up more momentum right now. Taking a look at all the way out, and you can see we are picking up momentum behind gold. And a lot of that does have to do with the debasement of the dollar. The dollar losing its value. You get less for your dollars when you go to buy stuff. And this is not something new. This is not something new where countries want to move away from the dollar. I won't even say this started with the whole deal in Russia where we weaponized the dollar. I will say it's been going on even longer. A lot of people have started to realize that they have too much tied up in the dollar and propping it up. And so a lot of countries have gotten to the point where they're doing either bilateral trade, where they're trading items for items, taking each other's currency. A little bit of trust is going to each one, and they're holding essentially the other person's currency. And what that does is that allows the country to print more currency and have their inflation go to another country. The U.S. has been doing this for years. The U.S. has been printing money. People want our products. They got to pay in dollars. People want oil. They have to buy oil in dollars. And essentially, so as they get dollars, they sit and hold them until they have enough money to essentially buy what they want, or just hold them to kind of protect themselves, because people have this belief that the dollar will always only go higher, and that's not really true. In fact, recently the DXY, which we do call the dollar index, has actually been going down. Now, is this a permanent thing? There's no real way to know. Ultimately, my personal opinion, the dollar will always go lower. It will always be debased as they print more of it. It will be worth less and less. However, it doesn't necessarily mean the DXY will go lower. The DXY is basically a group of countries that essentially are kind of compared to each other. And if the US dollar is the best of those countries, well, it makes the dollar look like it's getting stronger, even though it's going down in value. Kind of like if a bunch of us jump out of a plane, and maybe some people are falling faster than others. Well, at the end of the day, they're all falling. And once you realize that there is no end to the outcome. The outcome is certain that eventually the dollar will go to zero. The question is when? What will change? What will escalate what's happening? Now, right now, it's continuing to lose value. You can kind of see where it's dropping. This is not the first time this has happened. This has happened in the past. If you go all the way back, we're going to pull up all real quick, and you will see some really bad drops. Over here, we were up to 115 in, let's see if I can get the year, in about 2002, only to plunge for the next couple years all the way down to 72 in '08. Now, what happened in '08? A lot of that had to do, I believe, with the quantitative easing. We put more money in the system, and that basically made it appear that the dollar was getting stronger. But here's the thing. Debt does not make the dollar stronger. In fact, it's just the opposite. Paying down your debt is what makes it stronger. And a lot of people don't really fully realize that. A lot of people think that debt is good. I mean, a lot of us use debt just when we exchange money. I was explaining to someone the other day, most currency, U.S. currency, it says a debt note. I wish I had a picture with me real quick right here. But it says on the top it's a note. And when you actually Google what is a note is an instrument of debt. A car note is your loan. It's your debt. A house note, it's your loan for your house. It's your mortgage payment. And at the end of the day, if I write you out a check, well, that's great for you. I write you out $1 million check. Awesome. You go to the bank and you go to cash it, and they tell you, I'm sorry, this is not cashable. This person doesn't have $1 million in their account. What does that do for you? It doesn't do anything for you. Maybe you might be able to convince someone else to take that check. But at the end of the day, it's just that. It's not cashable. It's not good for anything. And here's the thing. The U.S. dollar, I mean, I'm happy to be an American. I've been able to reap the rewards of being in one of, I don't want to say this loose, like, how do you say it? Conceding, I guess. But I mean, being an American, being here in the United States is a very good privilege. We get to reap the rewards of the U.S. dollar. And it's funny, though, because the average American doesn't even realize the privilege it is. I mean, a lot of them, not people that are really watching this type of video, not people that are stacking, not people that are awoke to what's going on in the system, but, the majority of the people that are asleep out there. They don't understand. This system cannot sustain itself forever. And every now and then, countries do trade power. And unfortunately, when they trade power, when the rankings of all these countries switch up, the top dog is almost never on top anymore. And clearly, the United States has been on top for a long time. And ultimately, as some other country moves into the top spot, could that be China? Could that be Russia? Could that be someone in the Middle East? Who knows? It only makes sense. It could even be India. It only makes sense that the US dollar will fall. And a lot of that is going to happen due to a lot of those dollars that we have sent over to other countries, that other countries have been holding, coming back to the United States. And here's the thing, when all those dollars, when them central banks over there decide we're no longer going to hold them, where do those dollars go? They spend them. They spend them on anything they need from the U.S. And at first that might appear, oh great, they're spending their dollars, they're pumping that money into the economy, but then those dollars get into the system. And then you start seeing more inflation. And a lot of people have this belief that you won't see inflation if they don't print more money. And that's not really true, because a lot of money has already been printed. It's already been printed. It's just sitting overseas in some building somewhere. If let's say Starbucks, or we'll say Walmart prints out $20 trillion in gift cards all of a sudden, and every American gets gift cards. Okay. Well, does that cause inflation at Walmart? Well, not if everybody decides they're all going to hold their gift cards to use in a year or two from now. It has no impact. And those banks, those central banks overseas that are holding those dollars, are holding them just like you would be holding them gift cards. But if all of a sudden everybody decides to start using those gift cards and flooding them back into Walmart, products get wiped out, prices go up because there's less product in Walmart for you to buy, and eventually Walmart goes out of business. Why does it go out of business? Because it gets wiped out, and prices skyrocket, and essentially the store will just be ruined. The same thing is going to happen, I believe, with the U.S. dollar. When those dollars flood back into the United States, it's not going to be pretty. Stuff will get bought up in the United States. There'll be more money floating around. You'll all of a sudden see the prices of everything we buy continue to rise until there's no end. They'll probably try to implement price controls, which means, hey, we're not going to allow gasoline to go over $10 a gallon. Okay? And then what? If they say it won't go over $10 a gallon, but it's costing Shell, Exxon, wherever you buy your gas from, they've got to pay $12 a gallon because countries don't want our dollars anymore. So they've got to pay that to get it. What are they going to do? Are they going to keep buying it at 12 and selling it for 10? No. Price controls never work. It actually ruins everything. And I believe it's coming soon. You know, free market always reigns supreme. True markets and economics, you can't manipulate them forever. A lot of people have this belief that silver is manipulated, and it is. But they think that you can manipulate the price forever. Eventually, true values, true prices come out. And that's kind of what's going to happen, I believe, with silver. When people wake up and all of a sudden they realize that $32 silver is manipulated to that price, and every time it goes up, we see it get manipulated down, they're going to start buying. Essentially, it would be like I always say, you pick your favorite store, and all of a sudden they're selling stuff at 90% off at a huge discount. People are going to start buying it up. They're going to all want it. And that's kind of what's happening right now, I believe, with gold and silver. We're manipulated it down to where it's cheap, and they're buying as much as they can of it. Other countries are buying as much as they can of it. The average American is not woken up yet, but little by little they are waking up. Once they all wake up, and this is going to happen fast, once people realize what's going on, a lot of money is going to flow into gold and silver. And then we're going to see the prices of both metals continue to really rise and rise at a faster and faster rate until it's just out of control. And once it's out of control, people think that, oh, silver will never hit. It's talking $50, $70, $100. That's never going to happen. We've said this time and time again. We've seen $3 silver. People laughed when people said that it would even go to $10. Gold, when gold was down to 20 and all of a sudden they revalued it to 35, a lot of people wanted to sell their gold. And then all of a sudden it starts working its way up, and then it's 400. A lot of people think, oh my word, that's crazy, 10 times the price. No. And all of a sudden it just continues to go higher and higher. And now, we've got gold sitting at $3,219. Does it mean it can't dip a little bit? Of course not. We could see it dip. I mean, all this is controlled by paper, but can we see it dip and plunge and stay down forever? If you didn't learn nothing from this recent sell-off, when we had gold really start getting on a tear and going all the way up to 31.66 and then plunging all the way down to essentially 29.50, I mean, it didn't stay down for long, unfortunately, and then it popped right back up, and it popped up even higher, and that's kind of where we're going right now. I mean, even right now, gold is only $50 off of its all-time high. So to think this is the end is crazy in and of itself, because gold is continuing to go higher. Now, none of this is financial advice, it's just my personal opinion. If you notice that throughout this talk, I've kind of... I don't want to say lisped a little bit. I ended up biting my lip recently on something, and it kind of makes me stutter a little bit, I've noticed. So you guys can let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Not a super long one today. The video's kind of been rolling right around 20-25 minutes lately. Usually I've been hitting a lot of half hours. However, there's not a lot of extra stuff to really talk about right now. Some people might be wondering, hey, you're going to talk about the stock market. The stock market right now, people think that everything's better, that stuff's been corrected. We've gone up 2 days in a row. Personally, I think this is just a calm before the storm. I don't think the problems have been dealt with. I think there's a lot of volatility in the market, and I think a lot of people are going to get burned with this volatility. I actually talked to one kid recently, and I asked him what he was doing for work. He said, I've actually been day trading, crypto day trading. And I kind of found it funny because I was there once. I remember in 2001 when the volatility was crazy, and then all of a sudden everything plunged. I remember in 2008 when the volatility was crazy, and then everything plunged. And each time it has rebounded higher, but it took time. But in some cases, I mean, do you really want to tie your money up for 10 years? And if things get difficult, you can't sell when it's down. That's where the problem comes in. So with that being said, we'll take a quick look at Dow Jones closing today up 312, well, yesterday, 312 points, just under 1% higher, closing out at 40,524. NASDAQ closing out 107 points up, or a little over 0.5% higher, making a close of 16,831. And the S&P closing out again about 42 points higher, closing out at 5,405, almost 6. And Bitcoin, I ain't gonna lie, Bitcoin is looking good the last week. As in the last week, we have climbed all the way from, right around 78.9 all the way to 85. It looks good. 7.5% climb right now, up 6,000 points in just the last 5 days. But anybody that's been following Bitcoin for a while knows Bitcoin could drop by 6,000 points in one day. So am I really impressed with the 5-day run that it had? It's nice, 7%. I would not complain if one of my investments went up 7.5% in 5 days. But we've seen, like I said, right here, you see how quick it can go down. It's sitting in 2 days. It went from 83.3 all the way down to 75. That's essentially an 8,300 points drop in 2 days. And you can bet people were crying. But a lot of people did jump in and buy that $75,000 Bitcoin because a lot of people believe, that they eventually will essentially start some kind of United States strategic stockpile reserve of Bitcoin. And the thing is, if Trump wanted to do this, he would have already done it. So personally, the only thing keeping Bitcoin up right now is Michael Saylor and Michael Stratton strategy fund, and essentially the everyday people that just keep buying it. Because honestly, money is what the majority of the people believe it is. And that's why the majority of the people right now believe that US dollars is money. And because of that, the dollar has not totally collapsed, but eventually it is inevitable that it will. All money returns to its true intrinsic value. Once you understand that, you understand that a dollar bill is just paper. It's not backed by anything. It is just paper. And eventually it's going to go down like the paper that it is. With that being said, I thank everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure and leave me a comment. Be sure and hit that thumbs up button. And check out all of our other great videos. Please consider becoming a member. It is only $1.99. We got a couple of really cool events coming up before the month comes to an end. And then possibility might even have some more cool events next month. So this is a good time to try it out. And then you can just cancel next month at this time if you don't like it. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys again on T-Square Talk. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.